Good morning and welcome to Mental Health Matters with me, Dr. Audrey Tang. My co-host is Judith Crosier and this is the show where we take a deep dive into all things mental health and well-being. So this is a special Mental Health Matters today. What we thought we'd do is mix things up a little bit, and today Jude is going to interview me. So, whether you want to know anything about me or not, you're going to find out today. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Jude.
We are indeed. I've got some questions for you. So I'm really looking forward to this, actually. Because obviously I know you. I've known you for 18 years, I was calculating.
It is, isn't it? Because we used to teach together.
Yes, we did. So we worked at the same school. And then over the last 18 years, kind of our paths have crossed. And so it's been quite a long time. But I don't know an awful lot about a lot, so it's really interesting for me, and I know it's going to be really, really interesting for the viewers as well. So thank you. Welcome to your show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. So Audrey, Dr. Audrey Tang, you're the host of Mental Health Matters. You're the host of Skits and Quibbles, the other show. A chartered psychologist. You've got lots of strings to your bow, and we're going to look at those now. So looking forward to finding out a bit more about you. So you've got a lot of hats. I'm really lucky to have known you for a long time, and I've learned quite a lot about you from you as well. So before I knew you, which was 18 years ago, I know that you were involved in theatre. That formed quite a big part of your kind of early life. And dance. Can you kind of talk about your career from the beginning, kind of up to when you were teaching, that kind of time?
Yeah, I'll give you a bit of a whistle stop tour. I was enrolled in dance school before I could walk, because I think my mum always wanted me to be a dancer, but I don't have the figure, or didn't have the figure then, because it was very conventional, very classical at the time. But I did dancing, so ballet, tap and jazz, and skating, and drama school, so the whole lot. And I think I always wanted to be an actor. That was my dream, my goal. Got into stage school, didn't enjoy it. So I went back to do my A-levels. And probably one of the best decisions I ever made.
Oh, wow.
Because that's where I started doing psychology and started doing child development, started doing all of the more cognitive pursuits. And while still doing a little bit of drama and doing shows on the side kind of thing. After that, that takes you to sixth form. I tried again to go to drama school. I got into Central to do drama and English at Queen Mary Westfield.
Wow.
Did that for half a year, really didn't get on with that.
So you didn't enjoy it?
No.
Twice.
And so I went back to taking a psychology degree after that. And we were really lucky because at the time we could change degree.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a massive penalty or anything like that.
No sort of financial penalties in those days.
I was really, really lucky. And that's when I did psychology. And then after that, you've bumped around a few jobs, ended up teaching.
Yes.
But the irony is I applied as a drama teacher because that's something I'd always done my whole life, produced shows, done all of that on the side. But because I didn't have a degree in drama, they trained me as a psychology teacher and hired me as a drama teacher. And that's how I ended up balancing drama and psychology. Got the chance to do a PhD, did it on frontline personnel, especially teachers.
Was that while you were still teaching?
No, just I left teaching.
Okay.
And I left teaching because it was hard back then.
Yes.
It's harder now.
Yes.
And one of the biggest problems, because my PhD was on something called emotional labour. Now, emotional labour is where you are expected to put on an act, so put on a show, as well as know your subject. So you've got, or I've had the experience of a child throwing a stool across the room in a temper.
Yeah.
Whilst you're there going, oh, okay, right, let's
stay calm.
That takes a lot of pressure on somebody who is also having to know their subject knowledge, do their marking, produce this, that, the other for Ofsted, and so on. And that was causing a lot of frontline personnel, including teachers, burnout. That's what I ended up studying, and it fitted really nicely with leaving school because that was what I was already seeing and experiencing.
Yes.
And luckily, though, of course, I was trained as a teacher, which meant that I could still teach whilst writing up my PhD.
Yes.
Eventually got my PhD. It's a long slog, and you better enjoy your subject.
How long did it take?
It took me 5 years.
Okay.
So I submitted after 3, like you normally do, got major corrections. Major corrections means it's effectively a rewrite. And I rewrote the whole thing over the 2 years, but did that kind of on and off part-time. I had to teach to pay bills, which I loved actually. And then finally got it. Then I guess this blends in now the coaching side of things. I ended up teaching to supplement my income whilst writing up in a College of Further Education, which I loved. I was teaching adults, probably one of the most rewarding times of my life.
I remember you saying that. You really
Absolutely
enjoyed that.
Then I wanted to get into the NHS because I thought that might be a nice place to work. You know, you give something back that way.
Yeah.
And so I got into learning and development with the NHS. They trained me as a coach, which was great. That was a really good opportunity. So then I had my PhD, I had my coaching qualification, and I decided to break out on my own as a trainer. And that's really where it all started, because once I was on my own, I could write my books, and from that point onwards, new doors opened to you.
You could make your own decisions and kind of make your own future.
Yeah, so that's kind of a bit longer than a whistle stop.
No, but really, really interesting, because there were things there I didn't really know about. So, wow, thank you. You have clearly always been extremely driven and ambitious and accomplished. And I wonder where that comes from, really.
That comes from having very little choice. So you know about tiger parenting. That's the
I've
phrase.
heard of it.
Can you explain? Used a lot in East and Southeast Asian families. Okay. Tiger mum, tiger dad. And that is very much, you are going to succeed in something. For my mum, because she was a dancer, it was dancing or performance or something like that. And so I was kind of pushed there. I think for me, whilst I loved all of those things, it wasn't enough actually. And so that's why I bring in the psychology, because it kind of gives me that balance. And when I was transitioning from having a 9-to-5 job in the NHS and going freelance, you've got to supplement your income. So I did extra work. But because I had the theatre experience, you're used to the long hours, you're used to people telling you what to do. And so that was a great way to supplement income, and it was a lot of fun. So
yeah, and you kind of already had that ethos, you know, that you're a hard worker. I mean, one of the things that people always say who have met you, how does she fit it all in? How does she have that many hours in the day to fit it all in? So it's something that you have always done, is a lot of things. Yeah. But I can see why. I can see kind of how the creative side and the more academic side kind of feed into each other.
I think you need balance. I think everyone needs balance. And it's potentially why if somebody does one job for a very long time, I think you can get bored with it, no matter how good you are at it. I think I've been lucky, because if academia got too much, I had my theatre to fall back on, and if theatre got a bit too much, then I could go and read and get lost in research. You need to be able to give yourself outlets, and that's maybe people see that as she's doing a lot. But actually, I think I see that as I'm staying balanced.
So I was going to ask you, how influential has your heritage been? And you touched on that. Have you embraced all of it? Have you rebelled against any of it? How has that kind of fed into where you are now?
This is a very good question. Because a lot of my actual heritage doesn't exist anymore. I am Peranakan. Now, this means Malaysian Chinese. And I remember going to school and telling people I'm Malaysian Chinese, and then the teachers would say, oh, you mean your mum's Malay and your dad's Chinese? And it's kind of like, no. But I didn't have the words to explain it, because I didn't understand the heritage. But it is a dual nationality known as Peranakan, and you can read about it on Wiki.
And I have, and it's really interesting.
But it no longer exists anymore.
No.
You have to choose.
Yes.
So I think that in itself plays a part, probably because the Peranakans themselves were voyagers. They came to Malaysia from China, so they were already looking at different lands. And I think that ran through my mum's, both my parents actually, their families, because they then migrated from Malaysia to the UK.
Yes.
So again, that ability to embrace all cultures and to not close anything down and to just keep everything as broad as possible, that's made a huge difference. So I think that's been a massive influence. One thing I've rebelled against that I saw my parents do, and I think this is true although I wouldn't want to speak for anybody from the Windrush generation, but certainly Malaysia was a colony. And when you're a colony, you begin to worry about the person in charge. The person in charge was England.
Yeah.
And
Sorry.
yeah, that's right. And so when my parents came to the UK, it was very much keep your head down, don't question, don't argue.
Wow.
Don't do anything that might cause
Rock the
anyone
boat.
to dislike you or anything. And that, I think, was embedded in my insecurities.
Right.
But something that I have rebelled against,
Yes.
because you do begin to eventually sit there and say, yeah, but that's not perfect, is it? That's not brilliant. And in a way, that's helped me, because I think as a psychologist, a teacher, and as a coach, I've always been very much against, well, just because it's always done that way doesn't mean it's right.
Yes.
So that's the influence there.
Thank you. That's really interesting, because you are someone that questions everything and won't take no for an answer and will push the boundaries and go, no, I will do it. And even if it's really, really difficult or seemingly impossible, you do it anyway. So you talked about writing, and you've written 4 books,
Yes.
3 in the Leader's Guide kind of series, and you've recently won a prize for that.
Thank
So
you.
Congratulations. Fantastic. Do you enjoy writing? Do you enjoy the process of writing?
Love it. Writing and reading are probably my main passions, actually. I really love it. I always used to read, and I used to read a lot of non-fiction when I was young. I still do. If you look at my bookshelves, I think I've got about 4 books from one author who's a fiction writer, because I like them.
Okay.
That's it. I just like their voice, and I'm happy to read everything that they've done. But I just don't read fiction. I'm not that sort of person. And this is actually really important to mention, because when I was teaching, and I spent some time in a primary school, a job that you helped me get, actually, because you were working in primary at the time, so thank you for your support in that. I had a parents' evening, and probably one of my brightest students, it was her parents, they came in, she doesn't read. And this didn't sit properly with me, because this girl had come in and actually in her own time had done a whole project on like squirrels.
Oh, wow.
Whole project that she'd done on her own, off her own back. It wasn't
Gosh.
homework. She just wanted to do it.
Amazing.
And I said, yeah, but doesn't she read magazines or non-fiction books? Oh, yeah, she reads the children's encyclopedia.
So reading
Still
to them was
reading.
fiction.
Yes.
Ah.
And it's not reading, is reading.
Yes.
It doesn't matter what you're reading.
If you could take one, it's very difficult, but one kind of valued piece of advice from your books, the overarching kind of message, what would that be?
The overarching message from the books is, whilst I give individual interventions, I give interventions to teams, I give interventions to leaders, I give interventions to organisations. Yeah. That is only half the story. You cannot possibly change a toxic environment just by saying it's the individual. And the example I always give, and I apologise if you've heard this before because I use this one all the time, but it's the thing that really I think people recognise. If you take a health and safety approach, a practical approach to well-being, say,
yes.
If I walked in here, tripped over the carpet, we would fix the carpet. The carpet would be fixed. You wouldn't give me lessons on how not to trip over the carpet. You would not give me lessons on how to stand up having tripped over the carpet.
That's true.
But that is what is happening when we blame burnout and overwork on the individual and give them lessons to stop them getting burnt out and learn how to deal with stuff better. No, that's half the story. We need to fix what caused the tripping over in the first place. So, yes, it's great. Use the books, use the practical exercises, but don't stop there.
Brilliant advice. Thank you very much. Thanks to Audrey. We'll be back in a few minutes.
Hi, I'm Kelly Melissa Reinhart, host of Make Mental Health Matter. Join me on Mondays at 11 a.m. and Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time on the Achieve TV network right here on E360 TV.
And welcome back to the show. So after teaching, we're kind of in the early 2010s-ish, mid-2010s-ish by now, I think. You, from then and kind of 20 years before that, you had your own theatre group, Click Productions, which I've been really fortunate to be a tiny part of, and also to see lots of your productions, which have been amazing. And all of your productions the funds have gone to charity, which is why you did it, essentially. And the productions really have been great. And to name a real few, Steel Magnolias, you supported diabetes, Gaslight, supporting Mind. And then Audrey Never Does Things by Halves, you did Calendar Girls and The Full Monty.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That was one of my personal favourites, for sure.
Why?
I mean, the quality of the acting was just incredible. And the direction and production, of course. No, it was really great, and you supported some really fantastic charities. Can you tell us a little bit about the process of putting on a show? How do you choose the shows you're going to put on? And I want to know how difficult it was to persuade your actors to take their clothes off, especially for that final scene, because I don't know how she did it.
There are some secrets in that one. Well, I was always producing shows. I love acting.
Yes.
So, but in my own experience, growing up as Asian, I didn't get cast. So the reason I started producing my own shows was after I was 13 years old and I was cast as the princess in Aladdin in 3 productions. That was all. That was the only role I could get, despite knowing it wasn't even Aladdin, actually. I could have played any of those roles, and I could have played them well, and I could play anything that wasn't ethnically,
of course,
suitable. And because I wasn't getting those opportunities, I created them for myself.
Okay.
So I come back to you, even if you haven't seen it, you can still build it and do it.
Yes.
So that's how I started doing productions, and from then on, it's fine to do I'm going to write my own and put it on for my family, but to really kind of raise some money for charity, you need to start doing the more mainstream ones. So the biggest learning curve actually is about knowing what licenses and what rights and what permissions you need for everything, because that actually can take a huge amount of your ticket sales as well. You do have to get the right permission to do it. With the permission, you get instructions with how big font has to be on posters and things like that. Yeah, it's very strict.
Wow.
But you learn all of those things. And that's before you get to the casting and rehearsals and so on. And I think that, along with how I direct, which is something that I learned when I was being taught theatre studies in A-level, and the name of the teacher was Lucy, and I can't remember her surname because I never used it. We always called her Lucy. We had 2 teachers, Lucy and Lindsay. The way she directed me for my A-level is exactly how I direct everyone now.
Right.
It was brilliant. It was absolutely hands-on. It wasn't just move here, move there. She would say to me, well, okay, you're doing this in that particular way. I'm getting anger. Is that what you're going for? She would tell me what she was seeing. And so I always direct like that.
Okay.
Which means that people get a lot more coaching from me. I don't just go, well, here's the script, off you go.
So you're sort of mirroring it for them.
Yeah. I have to have a concept of what that story's going to be.
Yes.
And it may not be what's on paper the whole time. And, well, I mean, of course it is because you use the script, but the way that lines need to be said doesn't have to be the same. Take Oklahoma, for example, which was rebooted recently in the West End. Half the people walked out after Act 1 because they really pushed it in a very different direction, quite controversial, but they didn't change a single word.
How interesting.
Yeah.
So it was all in the direction and
All
the
in
acting.
direction. That's what I think is really great about theatre. So I've been doing that all my life. The way I direct, that's how I get the best out of people, because I can see what I'm going for and then you can draw it out of them. And then with the shows that we've done, I think we've just been really lucky to have very positive and happy cast to some extent. I've had some bad productions. I have done a couple of bad productions where we've all ended up not speaking to each other and it's just been horrendous. But you learn from those. You learn what went wrong.
Yeah.
I'm still making some of those mistakes even now, but hopefully I'll make them less in future. And I think that's what it is. It's learning from your mistakes. It's trying to keep everyone as positive and as supportive as possible, because acting is so vulnerable. So when you say, how did I encourage people to take their clothes off?
Yeah.
If the fact is that I can encourage someone to be vulnerable on stage, whether they've got their clothes on or not, taking the clothes off has actually got nothing on the vulnerability that someone has to give when they're acting a role. So
because just being on stage is
Isn't hard
vulnerable
enough.
enough. I mean, yes, I know
Yeah.
that. It's terrifying. It can be.
It can be, and what we did create that safe space. And so you're very lucky if you can capture lightning in a bottle, and I think it's probably happened on 2 occasions where we've really had the best of the best casts and teams and everything all at one time. One of them was the Full Monty,
Yeah.
and the other one was Return to the Forbidden Planet. Both
Yes.
those occasions we had the most outstanding cast we could have had, and it really worked.
And I saw both of them, and I was blown away by both of them.
Thank you.
Yeah, well done, congratulations. Yeah, it's still something that I remember to this day. And staying with acting, one thing I love is that your husband can say truthfully that he's married to a Bond girl, and I want to know how that happened.
the marrying to the Bond girl or the Bond girl?
Both.
No, it's a joke. The Bond girl thing is a joke. That was when I was saying I was supplementing my income doing extra work.
Yeah, but it
Literally,
happened.
It happened. I was very lucky, and this is something that people probably ought to know if you're going into extra work or any form of agencies. It's that I got signed up with a very good agency. I'm not talking about the ones where they say, oh, we'll charge you £200 for photos, and then if you get a job, we'll take some commission. No, agents take commission. That's it. They take commission off your first job. It means they have incentive to get you a job.
Yes.
If you are paying up front, they are not a reputable agent. And I was really, really lucky. I got working with Ray Knight. And Ray Knight, they cast for EastEnders. They cast for all of the big names. And because of that, I had all of these extra opportunities. And so it was Ray Knight, and We Got Pop was the second one that I joined. That was the one I got Bond from.
Okay.
Again, though, it was a bit of a process, and you don't get told anything. I just literally got a email saying, you've been penciled for Untitled 14 or something like that, and that was it. And, okay, and then you get told, oh, you need to then go to Elstree, I think, or Shepperton, one of them, to go and get a costume fitting. Even then, still no idea what I'm going for until I get there and you've got 007 on the door. And I phone my husband. I think I'm doing Bond.
That just gave me shivers, actually. Yeah, wow.
It was brilliant. It was so funny. And I was very, very lucky because I was actually featured in Spectre. It was one of those things where background, it might just be your shadow that walks by, and that's that. And that's what background is. But in this one, they were looking for people to be featured on set. It's the Nine Eyes scene, if anyone wants to know. We were directed by Sam Mendes, which was one of the most amazing things ever.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh,
As a director, directed by him.
It was incredible. So,
Wow.
so that was an amazing experience. They looked after, everyone looks after you really, really well. And that's how that came about. That's how that happened.
So exciting.
But there is a funny story about the marriage in the first place because it relates to Forbidden Planet. My husband proposed to me on the dress rehearsal of Forbidden Planet, and this is why I married him. He said to me, I knew that if I did it on the dress rehearsal, because I was playing a lead role, you couldn't say no because you'd put your show first. And just for someone to know you that well and tell you that, which is kind of unpalatable to hear when you think about it, because he's right, and still want to marry you?
Yeah. Well, he's incredible, as are you. They're an incredible team, honestly. Fantastic. Oh, that's so lovely. So lovely. And I just love that's what your husband says, and your Bond experience. That's so, it sends shivers down me, just kind of like listening to your experience. How exciting.
It was definitely
fun. So the singing features as well in your life, in your fundraising events as well. How important is singing to you? I mean, I know that you enjoy it. I know that you've kind of taken lessons in the past.
I've taken lessons because I can't sing. I can sing in character because you're putting on a silly voice and it doesn't matter how harsh your tone is. I don't have a nice tone, and I'm very happy to say that, understand that. I also can't hear music particularly well, which annoys me because both my parents have perfect pitch. really upsets me. I think it's because my brain works so fast that I'm on the next note and I haven't gone through what notes I should be singing. So one thing I learnt from singing lessons was think the next note, and that's the only way I can pitch. But that's too slow a process for my brain, so I don't cope very well. However, because of all that, one of the biggest things I've always wanted to do was do a charity single. Just because, well, why not? That's a good idea. And the very first one that we did, which was only a couple of years ago, we did the song You Will Be Found from Dear Evan Hansen. And I'm lucky enough to know a lot of really good singers. You sing, our producer sings, and I've got one of our charity trustees who's just got the most stunning... She presents on Skits and Quibbles as well.
Yeah, she's got a beautiful
stunning voice. Let her do the work.
Yeah, well, exactly, and yes. It's important for you to be able to be really inclusive, especially with singing, because people can sing from, they don't have to be here, they don't have to be on the stage like you do in the theatre.
Again, something I learned from you is the stay at home, is the be able to record remotely. Because I knew it was something that you did during the pandemic with your home chorus, and we did a little bit of it just to have a bit of fun, actually, because we were all so bored in the pandemic. It was just...
The one day more,
So we did Les Mis, and we also did Twelfth Night.
Again, of course, yes.
Because we were bored. We had nothing else to do, so we thought we may as well do that.
It was fun.
And so that came about. We knew we could do it, and that's how I started boosting my editing skills. That's why I edit this show as well. And because I could do that, I knew I probably could put things together. What I didn't realise was how powerful it was working with a virtual choir, because the very first time we worked with your virtual choir, and the stories that came out of that were amazing.
Yes.
It wasn't so much, oh, it's great, we don't need to travel, which is what I was thinking, because one of our singers was from Singapore. But when your singers spoke to me, they said, I actually can't get out the house because I'm a carer. Yes. I can't get out of the house because I don't want to get out of the house. That's huge. And now I would use virtual choirs as a matter of course, as well as on in-house choir.
Yeah, and I know personally people like that and how much they've benefited from doing your charity singles, and which have been incredible, by the way. Thank you. We will be back with Audrey after this.
A world without the arts is one without confidence, creativity and community, and yet funding has been reduced every year. Arts programmes have been shown to benefit social inclusion and well-being, particularly for marginalised groups, with projects fostering a sense of belonging, cultivating mutual understanding and breaking down social barriers and isolation. Participation in arts programmes can help boost confidence and open doors to opportunities that may otherwise be inaccessible. Click Arts Foundation offers grants up to £2,000 for grassroots arts projects twice a year, with our community arts experience trustees meticulously scoring each project on impact and sustainability. To date, we have supported craft and visual arts projects, dance, drumming for well-being, and preservation of heritage and culture. If you share our passion, not just for maintaining the arts themselves, but contributing to the many benefits it can bring, please consider making a donation to Click Arts Foundation registered charity.
I'm really loving hearing all about your history and going into more depth. It's really, really interesting, so thank you. So TV presenting, obviously that these shows, Mental Health Matters, Skits and Quibbles, it's not your first time, it's not your first rodeo, you've done it before.
To be fair, I'd always wanted to present, and I've been presenting a little sports show with me in sports. It's hilarious. I call it my Phantom of the Opera time, because my husband really loves sports, and so I knew what I'd have to talk about each week, and I'd ask him for his opinion, and then I'd give it. Got away with it. But that was my very first experience on a green screen and everything. Oh, wow. Working with mics and all of those. So in a way, I think I had something when I went to the Chrissy B show, but the Chrissy B show was really the first time where I was using my academic knowledge. I wasn't regurgitating what somebody else had told me to say. And I got really lucky because they liked me, they asked me back. Yeah. And I think that's really important. One thing, when I was asked, you may ask me this, so apologies if you're going to. I was asked in my book launch, what 3 words describe you? And I said, a good bet is actually a phrase. Because I know that. You can take me on, I will do it.
Yes.
I will try and over-deliver every single time. And I've been really lucky because as soon as I've got the foot in the door, I've been very blessed in many ways to always be asked back. And that was really important. So that's what happened with the Chrissy B show. I went up from being a one-off every so often into resident psychologist, where I was on practically every week.
Yes.
And then when Chrissy was off doing different things, I ended up anchoring for her, and that was amazing. So a really good experience.
Yeah, and really good experience for this show as well.
Absolutely.
Which is fantastic. So, okay, I didn't ever know how that came about. That's really interesting. And I know that one of your ambitions has always been to be a TED speaker. And you've realised that ambition now, which is really, really recent. Can you tell us a bit about how that works and how it went and how you feel about it?
TED likes to have performances at the beginning and at the end.
Yes.
And so it opened with Melodies for Mums, which was absolutely beautiful. It's singing for mothers with postnatal depression.
Oh, wow.
And they sing together. They don't sing any nursery rhymes. They focus on mum, not baby, but baby's there. Mm-hmm. And that was a beautiful opener, really emotional, really moving. And what I do is I retrained last year as a burlesque instructor, and we do dancing for wellbeing. And for me, that was something I wanted to add to my training armour, shall we say. I wanted to add that as well. And what we do is we have all shapes, sizes, ages, everything. We get people moving, we have fun, we build confidence. But for me, it's about embedding the confidence within someone. You can't, no matter how much you want to cognitively, you can't just say to somebody, oh, you look fantastic, and then they'll suddenly believe it and go off and be like, oh, yeah, I look fantastic. Of course they won't.
No.
But if you make someone do a bit of a shimmy, they'll feel awkward at first, but when you can lose yourself in it and get into it, that confidence, which you don't even realise you're building, that stays with you outside there. And that's amazing. When I see the women come to my class wearing a dress that they've put at the back of their cupboard because someone or something made them feel that they could not wear that dress, and they look sensational and they move in it and they dance in it, that's incredible. Even last week, we had a few new people starting, which is wonderful. One of them said to me, oh my goodness, I'm just not used to the hair and then the boobs and then... Why not? What has happened so that the intimacy we have is just medical or just saved for Saturday night or whatever it is? What has happened?
Do you think that we, as a species, have learnt to hide certain parts of ourselves or not embrace those parts of ourselves?
Now, men can lack confidence too,
yes.
But I think women are often objectified a lot more. And if you don't fit a certain profile, that's a real problem. Mm. And it doesn't take long before, if you hear the same message again and again and again, you will begin to believe it, whether it's true or not. It's really nice to genuinely have a group of women who just, will straighten each other's crowns.
Yeah, and I've seen that. I've seen that them do that.
Yeah.
And I've also seen them perform, and wow, incredible. If you ever can, I don't know if it's available online, any of your burlesque performances, but if you can Google them, then I would. They're absolutely incredible. Just it's quite emotional actually. Seeing that, and I did take part in one of your classes, and I broke a load of bones, and so I haven't done it since.
Not in my class.
No, not in her class. Nothing to do with that. So I haven't been back, but I did go and see a performance, and all I kept thinking was, I wish I was on stage with. Can we talk about your charity?
Yes.
So Audrey set up a charity. Also about a year ago?
Yeah, a lot happened last year.
Yes, it did. Yeah, could you tell us about it?
Yes, it is called Click Arts Foundation, and Click Arts Foundation is pretty much the progression of Click Productions, which is the theatre group that I was running for 30 years prior.
Yes.
We'd always done shows and given the money to charity. My dad sold our family home after COVID. There was a lump sum after paying capital gains tax and all of that, there was a lump sum to then to go into something. And because he's always supported my work, what we wanted to do was to do something where we could continue that sort of support. But because I just don't necessarily have the time or energy to put on a full-scale production anymore, doing the charity means that we can grant fund other productions. So you keep the ethos of what it was we were doing in the first place going. It's just not me that has to go there and get the cast together and rehearse it and put it on. It's somebody else who does that. And it's just so lovely because we funded a number of theatre and education productions.
Yes.
We funded a language school. We funded drumming for wellbeing. There's so many different things that we've been able to support. And it's just amazing to see how much good the arts can do. But it's also heartbreaking to see that why, as a charity, are we picking up the slack because the arts have been so defunded?
And that's something that comes through all of the time, isn't it? So you're funding grassroots organisations such as Click Productions back in the day.
Yes.
So you're kind of funding who you were then.
Exactly.
And yeah, you had amazing support from your dad as well, which is
very
incredible. So. And again, you're very inclusive, you know, and the organisations that you're helping are really benefiting. Yeah. But it's not just that, it's people who are involved in your charity doing the fundraising or doing events for the charity are also benefiting because it is part of the arts.
Yes.
And that's really important to you.
Exactly. We do in our fundraising exactly what we expect to see in someone who's applying for a grant.
Yeah.
It's if we create a safe space, we have fun, we are inclusive, and it's all very well having values, but you've got to be living them. And so if we are expecting to see this in people's applications, we best be doing it ourselves. And so that's what we do. And then if anyone questions, then it's very easy to point to, yes, but look at what we did with the charity single, look what we did with the burlesque, look at how we put these productions together. That's what we want to see from you. And it's not hard because if we can do it, then why can't other people? Largely it's about keeping a safe space. It is as simple as that. Really.
Yeah. And and again, you can see the benefits that people who are involved with the charity get, as well as where you're donating your money to. It's fantastic. So going back to school, when you were putting productions on in school, which were also great, did you find that the children or the students, the young people involved, were benefiting from the well-being side of being involved in that as much as you see adults benefiting?
Yes, very much so. Doing drama in general, it's often misconstrued by other teachers, and I used to get students sent to me because they just couldn't sit still in their maths class or they couldn't sit still in whatever class it was. And I remember one who came to me and he already had fallen out with most of the teachers anyway. And I had an observed lesson at the time as well.
Always the way.
I know, but he came in and I said, okay, well, given that they're all about to perform their pieces, what you can do is you can do lighting. So I'm going to ask all of the groups to come to you. They're going to tell you what lighting they need and you're going to put the lights on and off at that particular time. Not a problem. He was the most fabulous tech I'd ever seen. And subsequently, actually, after that lesson, he started doing these school productions, doing tech for that.
Did he?
And even did the staff panto. And given that this was the student that all the staff really had a problem with, you have to trust your tech, otherwise he's just going to switch lights off on you. And that's that.
Amazing.
It was absolutely incredible. And so that to me was just amazing. And it was actually the feedback from the observed lesson by a very wonderful teacher called Merlin Williams. Now sadly he passed away.
Lovely.
But he said to me, you may not have noticed it, but I saw his face when you trusted him. And he looked like he'd never been trusted before in his life. And I think that was true. I think he hadn't been. But it just goes to show that if you say, well, this is all really important, we're counting on you, and it's true.
Yes.
That's what you get. And so you saw that on the tech side of things. But I think as well as the fact that, this gives children something to put on their CVs when they're going for university. It sets them apart. You know, we got a Guinness World Record for speaking the largest number of children speaking Shakespeare on stage. We did the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. We performed in the West End. Yeah, that all looks really good on the CV. But one thing I did notice, say at the Edinburgh Fringe, you've got half an hour to get in and get out because that's all your time allocated. You've got 2 hours and you best be cleared.
Yes.
I'll stop until cool. And you best be cleared. And what I noticed there was every single person, they knew they would be makeup ready, they would have their mics taped, they would be able to set up their little bit of the set. That ability to organise yourself, organise the people that you're with and work as a team, when is that ever not going to be needed in business?
It's fantastic. and also learn more in doing that than learning maths and English, which is really, really important, but you don't have the same responsibilities.
You can't teach responsibility without giving responsibility.
Yeah, so important.
And that's what drama does.
Yeah.
You have to. You've got no choice. I had no choice but to trust a cast of... We had year 7 up to people who left school that had come back. Every single one of them knew exactly what to do, but you cannot teach that. You've just got to hope and trust.
And I think that young people, if they're given responsibility, they rise to the challenge 9.5 times out of 10.
Absolutely. And it's not just a case of, I'm just trusting you with it. I will tell them what they needed to do. It's not like, here's a plug, go and do something with it. Yeah. It was, no, your job is to do this, to that, to that. Every time it was done.
Amazing. That's just amazing, honestly. Thank you. So obviously, through so many, if not all of everything you've done, the wellbeing theme comes through time and time again. And, you know, I love being involved in your mental health meta shows and wellbeing. And I know why I do, but why do you think it's so important to you?
I've seen a lot of people, because as I say, I'm from privilege, which means that you see other people with privilege. And I have seen what's happened to those children and how they're all in rehab now, and they're all doing things that the parents wouldn't want to talk about. I could have been that. Mm-hmm. I could have done that. But for some reason I decided not to, and it's much more fun to do things like this with people I like and spread a bit of joy.
Well, lucky us, that's what I say. And there's a couple of maybe quick answer questions
here.
All
right, I'll be ready.
So what do you do for your own wellbeing?
Dance, burlesque, definitely, 100%. I love it.
Perfect. The future. So Fabulous 50 on the horizon.
Oh, gosh.
Is that going to be a milestone for you? Are we going to see different things coming from you? Or is it watch this space?
No, just a big excuse for a party.
Right.
I never had... never had one for my 40th because for some reason I really didn't want to turn 40. So I had my 39th instead. And then everyone gave me 40 birthday cards anyway. So I was like 40 twice.
Oh, no. So they thought that you were a year older than you actually were.
Exactly.
Oh. No. Have a 51st then.
Yeah, that's it. No, I'll just have one when I'm 60.
And how would you like to be remembered? What are you most proud of?
Ooh, that's a really interesting one. And actually, I really don't know. And I think my answer, therefore, is along those lines. In the same way as if you perform in front of 200 people, you will get 200 people interpreting your performance. If I've written a book that's been read by 1,000 people, I'll get 1,000 interpretations. I think it's got to be up to everybody who's crossed paths with me to remember me how they want to. But it's nice to be remembered.
Brilliant, thank you. And where can we learn more about Click Arts Foundation?
www.clickartsfoundation.org.uk. That's our charity website. So everything goes on there. But you can go at Click Arts Foundation and Click Arts Found on social media.
Yeah.
So that's where you'll find a lot of the stuff. We update that very, very regularly. Our website's a bit more of a holding page, so it tells you what we do, but it's not regularly updated. And then if you want to find out more about me, then it's www.draudreyt.com. And I'm not, bless her, I'm not the digital Taiwanese minister. We do not look the same. We're not in the same field. She is a lovely person because I do a lot of her PR. People come to me and I say, I don't think you want me. But she's really, really nice. But she goes under Audrey Tang, I go under Doctor.
Yeah,
she's
a definite difference. Brilliant. And obviously you're on Facebook, Click Arts Foundation's on Facebook, loads of great stuff on there. And if people want to have a look at your books and find out what you've written about?
All on Amazon, if you want to go to Amazon. And Amazon usually does really good deals, probably better than I get them. I've gone to the point where I get a deal through my publisher, but it's sometimes cheaper on Amazon, so I go buy a load on Amazon.
Oh, that's brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing so much about your life and your thoughts and your, you know, just where you're coming from and where you have come from and where you're going.
Oh, brilliant.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So it's been a fantastic opportunity to get to know Audrey a little bit better. I hope you've enjoyed the show and we look forward to seeing you next time.